I'm just saying, if there are UFOs, they're not flying discs, okay? That's ridiculous. Have you ever seen anything in the sky? You know where North South Carolina is?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if there were going to be some things flying around, it had to be in North
there's a
South
secret
Carolina.
air base there.
No way.
It's not super secret. I mean, you can ride by and see it.
Well,
but
I mean, you know it. Now I know, and they know it now.
That's not so secret. But you can ride past it and know that it's there.
Well, there's an alien welcome center in Bowman, as you well know.
I have seen that up close. It looks kind of chintzy to me, so it's questionable whether
actual aliens were welcome there. I paid $3 to go through it probably 20 years ago, which in hindsight wasn't a bad deal.
No, not a bad deal. $3 is not a bad price. You know what's expensive though? That does cost $3.
Water.
Water. Fiji water, very expensive. Just a pint.
You're on an anti-water purchase kick.
Yeah, I like that. I get those big 5-gallon jugs of
water.
No, I want to say it's some kind of water, but I don't know what kind it is. But it does taste like nothing. It's distilled.
Well, that's helpful.
So today, I don't know what episode of our podcast this is. Number 5, 6, 7. Okay, good.
Number 567.
Yeah, we're on. It was actually just number 7.
They could edit that.
We're new at this. I'm here with Bert Sorin, Sorinex. My link to Bert is, first of all, your dad, Richard. Met him, I don't know how many years ago I met your dad. Probably
early 2000s.
Yeah, early 2000s, yeah. And he has technically supported me in many different ways as a bladesmith, whether he purchased work or encouraging or see him at a show or something like that. But always, hey, you're doing good. It's good to see you. And I always thought that was cool, man.
That's awesome, man. It's kind of funny. He and I were talking about years ago. He was saying, like, if he was to kind of like restart his, interest in something new, he'd mentioned you a number of times. He's like, I'd probably just go find Jason Knight and like get him to teach me how to make knives or something.
Oh, cool.
So it's kind of funny. And then I was like, hey, Pops, I'm going up to Jason Knight to make knives. He's like, well, that's pretty cool. Man, tell him I said hi. That's great.
That's cool. I like, so last summer I met you at Summer Strong.
Yep.
And we were hanging out with Neil, and then I brought Neil down there. And the truth is I dropped him off and I was just like, oh, okay, let's go. Cause I didn't, sometimes if I don't have a feel for something. Sure. And I didn't know, I had no clue. I was like, let's just go.
Well, that was a pretty sweet Uber ride you gave him from Tennessee.
Yeah, man, he's my brother. I'm happy to. And then I went back and Shelly's like, do you want to go back? We don't have to be anywhere. I was like, I got to go support my boy. And so I went over there and it was really awesome because I got to meet you. I met a lot of people, and a lot of people I saw that I'd already met, like at SHOT Show. Yeah. Some faces I knew, got to meet new people. And your dad gave me the tour in the history of Sorinex, which was super cool. I really had no idea. I knew he could pick up animals by the horn, but I really didn't know how. I had no idea y'all had that kind of operation going there. It was amazing.
Well, it hasn't always been like that, but yeah. I appreciate
it's perpetual work since you began. It's like everyone's hard work, and like we were talking about, it's like it's an ongoing thing, and you're in it 1,000%.
You got to be. I mean, you have to live it. You could call it a job, and you just do that to make yourself feel better. Basically, you just realize that you get paid for your life every once in a while if things are good, and you just keep doing it, man. And you get to a point where you've done it so long. And I've done it 21 years. Solid now, but of course I was around it when I was a kid. But we've been around 40 years. Like that's a long time to just buy into. We're going to do this thing, and like we were talking on the way over, you're like just like a professional baseball player or whatever. It's like I'm a knife maker. That's what I do. And I thought about it. It's like we do Sorinex. That's what we do. The other stuff, I don't know. Like I'd probably be worthless at anything else.
Yeah, I sometimes. I have people come and visit, and they're really good at playing a guitar or something else, like other things that I'd like to do that. I want to do that, And I see new things that I would like to get into. Sure. But I also realize it's like, I'd like to get more into skateboarding again.
That makes sense.
But I skate goofy foot Mongo, and every time I get on the board, I really bust my ass. Are you saying I suck at it? So I don't get into skateboarding, but I can ride a bicycle, but not in here.
But I've heard you busted your ass on the bike, though.
I'm good at it.
Good at busting your ass on the bike?
You got to bust your ass on the bike to really understand the mechanics of the bicycle.
Yeah. You're like, so the pedal goes into the shin. Got the mechanics on that.
Pedal goes into the shin, and if it's a good bike with disc brakes on the front, and not too touchy on the front brakes.
Right.
I went over the handlebars. I left the bike about right there, and I landed over there. But
good.
Bone density, so nothing was even
you have
damaged.
the adamantium bone density of like Logan, right?
Yeah, I think
From
so.
what I understand.
Yeah, yeah. And I heal for a really slow time.
The inverse of Logan.
That's right.
I'm like just perpetually injured, and then every once in a while I, pretend I'm not. That's basically how it works.
Speaking of that, it's kind of funny you brought that up because about 4 or 5 times a week, I'm thinking to myself, do I want the same powers like Captain America, or would I rather have what Wolverine has?
4 or 5 times a week.
With the healing power, or somebody else, or Doctor Strange. I can't really decide. And I don't mean the Marvel universe on TV. I mean like old school Marvel comic. Right. That's what I'm thinking about. But you ever think about that?
Yeah, we used to have this conversation. I think back when I was an athlete, we always wanted the Logan power because then you could train as hard as you wanted to and recover from anything. So you had perpetual ability to get better at the sport. But that's like what you think about when that's what you're doing, right?
Right.
I was like, how far I can throw a hammer? And then I didn't think I should have just been Thor and thrown the hammer further just out of principle because that would have been my skill set. Wasn't that smart back then.
How much does the hammer weigh?
Yeah, so the Olympic hammer is basically a shot put, 16-pound shot put basically, on about a 1 meter wire with a handle on it. So if you want to figure out something that's super technical, very hard to learn, pays very little, and is super dangerous.
It's like knife making.
It's like knife making, yeah. And there's hundreds of dollars to be made in the sport. It's perfect.
You could be a hundredaire at the end of 10 years.
And you can maybe even be a thousandaire if you play your cards right. No, it's really cool. It's fun it's an old weapon, and you get to spin around and scream and yell and basically have a little temper tantrum and see this weapon fly really, really far from you. And the person that it lands furthest from when they throw it gets to win.
Cool.
And so it's super fun. I loved it. It was a great part of my life, and I almost have to make it comical now because I realize I just spun around in circles for about 15 or 20 years. But it was great. That's probably trick my kids into doing it.
When you're doing this, where's the crowd?
Thankfully, the crowd is kind of like behind. Say if this is the circle and you're throwing this way, and there's I think it's a 40-degree sector goes out, so the crowd's back here and behind a fence, which is helpful, and the fence is about 20 feet high.
Fence is helpful.
Fence is a good plan.
Have you ever seen one go the wrong way?
I've made them go the wrong way. No, that's one of those things, and it's like when you're spinning, because you're spinning really fast, and the ball's going about 60 miles an hour, and they said on an 80-meter throw, which is like a world-class throw, that it's over 600 pounds of force on the ball. So you're leaning back as hard as you can, countering against that ball, and you're pushing against the ground, because the faster it goes, the more it weighs and the more leverage you have to gain upon it. Right. But when the wire breaks, there's no warning. Right. So you go from 600 pounds of tension to 0 in 1/100 of a second. Wow. And so there's some really interesting acrobatics that happen while you're spinning this way and pulling as hard as you can. You just get shot out of a cannon.
You should pull that up on YouTube.
It's really funny. So yeah, if you get a chance, look it up on YouTube, hammer throw injuries or at least accidents. And it's unfortunately there are some people that get pretty badly injured from the ball because you're turning and you have to release it 90 degrees from where you want it to go, which takes some timing. And sometimes it might hook out, and people that aren't used to track and field might walk across the field, or even they don't realize it goes so far and they're not kind of head on a swivel.
Wow.
That's a bad deal.
Do you, for me, I'm not crazy interested in ball sports like football, baseball, basketball. If I was going to be interested in any of them, it would be basketball because it moves really fast. Mm-hmm. I always liked rugby for whatever reason because they're not wearing pads, especially with the New Zealand All Blacks, and they do the haka.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
but I really like MMA. I really like that. I find that is a ancient gladiatorial sport, or boxing.
Yep.
You know, far more technical, but
Sure.
still things. So in the MMA, a couple years ago, I started following Conor McGregor, of course, and I really love to watch him fight.
But do you like the attitude, or do you like the fighting prowess as well?
I like
'Cause
that.
they go hand in hand.
Yeah, I like a little bit of both, because it's like, you know, when Mike Tyson would fight. This is another subject.
He's going to again.
Yeah, he's talking about. He goes, I would look these guys in the eye, and I knew I had them beat, because I'm looking right through them, and they're looking all over me, and I got this guy. And every time, boom, he'd smoke them.
Of course.
And Conor McGregor will get on the other side of the cage, and he'll crouch down like a tiger. And then when it's go, like boom, he's on, and he's checking the distance, and then when it's on, and he's laughing, and he's having fun the whole time. Obviously, even if he gets his ass beat, which isn't common. But the cool thing is, the truth about any athlete or professional is, we don't always win.
Sure.
I don't always win when I'm making knives. And I think it's kind of weird when we see the community go, oh, well, but he lost to so-and-so. I was like, yeah, well, Khabib's a badass.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
But it's like these things, the same thing with anything we do. We are in the arena.
Yeah.
We are going forward, like we're making a podcast. And that might not seem like much, but we'll present this to an audience that
You're shooting your shot.
we're shooting a shot, and it's like, and people go, oh, that was great subject matter, you guys, or somebody will be like, well, that was so stupid, whatever. And for those though, I can't believe you pulled your finger out of your nose and your other finger out of your ass long enough to type that. Hey, good for you.
You might want to wipe the keyboard.
Yeah, you're making progress. That's great. To the trolls. But like, when I think about, so I'm going to go back to the Wolverine thing, because it's kind of a funny thing. When I was a kid, we would box, and we did martial arts, and my number one opponent was my friend Jermaine Funches.
Okay.
And he was a badass.
Sure.
And I truly loved him, and we were friends since we were little kids in kindergarten all the way through high school. I have no idea where he is. I kind of want him to get in touch with me, but maybe I don't. I don't know. But I love the dude.
Well, he might.
But we would fight. We would spar all the time, and I was like, man, that was so much fun back in those. But if I had this crazy fantasy idea, and like, let's just say you could be Wolverine. So you have this, you're tough. You'd be kind of old, I guess. I mean, because he doesn't
like
know
Wolverine.
how old he is.
Yeah.
But just imagine,
I guess he's
like,
really old. He's older than 43.
Oh yeah, he's got to be old.
I think he was in the Civil War too.
Yeah, probably, way back then. But like, imagine going up to Dana White and be like, "Hey, I want to try out." It's like, "Well, you're too old for this." It's like, "I'll fight anybody you put in front of me." And then they beat your ass, but they can't really beat you.
They would throttle me.
They wear themselves out beating you because you're Wolverine. And then the thing is like, "Okay, bub, my turn." And you don't claw them; you just pummel them.
Yeah, I mean,
it'd be kind of fun, But
yeah,
why would you do that?
I would really enjoy the fighting game if it wasn't for the long-term injury. The long-term injury is what puts you out, like, out of commission, where you can't do other things you like acute visceral pain, like right now. Like, I'm not looking forward to it, but
talking.
Cool. Right, but I want to be able to like just put sentences together.
Yeah, me too. I'm always working on that, putting my sentences together.
Yeah.
So, we're making a knife.
We are making a knife.
We're making
currently
2 knives.
Yeah.
And I think it's going well.
And I appreciate you putting it in first gear with your knife making, so we could go along, because I know it's probably taken 17 times longer to make your knife than it normally would.
Yeah, but it's okay. I don't mind. The fun part to me is, sometimes when you share with somebody, you're sharing, and that's good, because they're learning and they're gathering and they're getting information. And later on in years, as they progress in it, if they continue, whatever it is, they remember that and they bring it back. But what's fun for me and you, I think, is we're sharing back and forth, and I've been really enjoying that. That's fun, because we're telling stories and we're having a good time, and we're both from South Carolina, the Low Country.
Yeah, I love South Carolina.
And we have a lot of things we know about the Low Country. Yeah. So like here we have lightning bugs I've seen 3 varieties. I've seen yellow, greens, and I have seen a few blues. That's kind of uncommon,
Right.
unless I wasn't on anything.
Yeah, right.
But in South Carolina, you have lightning bugs too. But the majority of the bug you have this time of year, if you go sit outside, is mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes.
I don't
the
miss-
state bird.
The state bird. I don't miss it at all.
No, man. See, you guys don't have them bad here, do you?
No, they don't. Like on my porch, they don't have enough. They're like, I'm gonna bite you. They can't get to your skin.
Yeah, and you don't have the sand gnats here as badly
No,
as well, or the sand fleas and all the other. I mean, South Carolina's just a bitey place.
Bitey, buggy.
Yeah,
it's a
there's like-
bug world, and it's not.
And
ugly, it's beautiful.
there's snakes with all
A
the
lot of
fangs.
venomous
You have
snakes,
you have snapping turtles. You have alligators. You have
I like alligators a lot.
alligators are cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
They're
I'm
pretty
down with
scary,
alligators.
yeah.
Oh, they're terrifying, but they don't hide as well as like snakes.
Can I tell you an alligator hunting story?
I'd love to hear it.
So, I had a 5-acre pond in my front yard, and I felt like, we'd call wildlife department, we'd get a permit back in those days, and we'd take care of the nuisance alligator. So I was like, I want to be real creative with this time. So I saved peeps. You know what peeps are?
Like
little marshmallow
the little weird
chickens,
duck things.
Yeah. So I'd fed the alligators marshmallows before, and they loved those. So I was like, well, maybe peeps, because they look like little duckies. So I put the peeps out, had my spear in the water like this. Alligators coming. I'm like,
I don't know if that was the best plan.
it wasn't a great plan, but
No.
I felt like
In
I
the
was
water.
thinking I'm Tarzan or Conan at the time. I'm like,
Yeah.
know,
Some sort of.
yeah, I'm
plan.
gonna take this alligator out. And what's funny is alligators are pretty skittish, especially like a wild alligator.
Yeah.
And if it sees like, oh well, that is a turtle, that is a carp, that is a deer, I can eat that. I don't know what that is. I'm scared of that. Of
course.
So alligator is getting closer and closer. He's about from me to Matt, and I make the wrong move. And then you know what happened?
Hopefully he went away.
He really went away very fast.
Yeah.
I was disappointed because he was eating them peeps. And I'm like, oh boy. And I was thinking, when he gets up close and I can
How
get
big was it?
Oh, he might have been like 10 feet, not too big.
10 feet and you're in the water?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's a no.
But I guess I was also 28, so yeah, not too bright.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when he was there and I moved and he could see like a ripple, he's like, take off. And I was like,
It's interesting because different times of the year, like especially the big bulls like that, you're in the water, we were hunting them before in like 12, 13 footers that were very dominant.
Yeah.
And they'd see the John boat and they'd blow up, they'd breathe in and blow up and their backs would come up out of the water and they'd lift their tail out of the water and you're like, oh, he's totally just posturing. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, he hears because they hear the water slap the side of the boat as we were sneaking up on him.
Yeah.
And they'd hear something coming, and you're just like, okay, you're not only not afraid of me, you're just showing me your boss. Like, what a freaking crazy dinosaur.
You ever seen them do that vibrating thing?
I've never seen it in person.
Yeah, when
that infrasound.
it's like a mating thing.
Yeah.
Like they go.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Oh man, alligators are so wild. We were bow fishing last week in Lake Marion, which is kind of down the Santee area.
Yeah.
And it was great. So we were going along, and you just see these big swirls underwater, this mud and this bubbles popping up, and you're like, okay, that was a big boy laying there.
Yeah.
And I love it. It's just spooky and cool. And
Yeah, that's one time. My wife worked for the Department of Natural Resources once, and she was a marine biologist. She worked with the game fisheries, and I thought it would be really cool. Me and my buddy Damon, we were fishing, and I caught a little alligator on a brim buster,
oh, nice.
and so I decided to bring it home. So I brought it home, and I put it in the kitchen. It's on
Like
the floor.
in the sink, or
Just on the
like-
floor. in the
Okay,
kitchen.
got it.
And she got home and she goes, "That's illegal. Take that out now. Take it back and put it back where you put it. It's not funny." I was like, "Okay." I was like,
Did you do like the go backs, like if you're a bad boy? When you're
that never happened.
then we had an alligator in the backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple years ago I was fishing, and it was right in probably the June, right about this time, June, July, and that's that mating season. And I found that I could call them up, and they're pretty stupid, just.
Yeah.
And I have it on video, these coming right up to me, and it was just like, dude, this would be so sweet. Like, of course, I couldn't hunt them there, but I never thought of that when I was hunting them. So,
Oh man. One of my It was kind of weird. So behind my house, where I used to live near Charleston, there's a big field.
Let's just be honest. Like everything behind the house around Charleston is just weird anyway.
So there's an alligator. My neighbor called me and goes, "Hey, there's an alligator going across the field." I was like, "Great." So I went and I grabbed my spear. I always want to use the spear if I can. So I grabbed my spear and I'm going out there and he is booking it across that field. And my other neighbors that are further back, and these neighbors are far apart, you know?
Right.
So he had all this yard debris he had piled, like straw and whatever and everything, and the alligator went over it and then he went down in this little thicket. So I'm not paying attention. And I don't even have shoes on. I go up on that big debris pile, and I got my spear, and I look down, and there's little copperheads coiled up, everywhere. There's 5 or 6 of them. I'm like, how many of them jerks did I step on to get up here on this hill?
Forget that noise.
But it's not the first time that me or Shelly have stepped on copperheads before, and they just don't do anything, which is kind of nice because I didn't get bit, and I was just like, oh my gosh, yes. I don't know. So with the snakes.
So copperheads. You're stepping on
copperheads. I'm up there. I'm like, oh shoot. So I can't get in there with the alligator. It's too tight, and I want to get in there, but he's pretty big, and
there's snakes, and you're barefoot.
Yeah, and there's snakes, and I'm barefooted. So I kind of just tried to find the best path I could find to get away from them, but they never did a strike. They never even tried anything. So I was like, weird. But my wife has stepped on copperhead before out in the swamp. Didn't even try anything. It was just like, oh.
Do y'all wear snake boots when you're out there?
No, I never wore snake boots. It's probably a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, if I'm below Columbia in South Carolina, and then if it's kind of warm, I wear a snake boot. But I just don't want to get a snake bit. But, because, we're deer hunting, I'm sure, as you did too, hunting over those big soybean fields. And, the soybeans are this high in August, and you're just walking along. And I remember hearing, guys talk about, I saw an alligator cross this field, or you see prints in the field, and you're like, man, if I'm walking in waist deep soybeans, I can't see my feet, and I stepped on a freaking alligator, I would lose my mind. Because you can't see, you're just like, whoop, or you just get whacked. You're like, well, I'm done. It's like getting hit by a shark. But I always thinking, I'm like, man, I'm going to step on, because you're walking in and out at day, nighttime, and I'm like, I'm going to step on a freaking anaconda one night. And one night I stepped on something that felt like a fire hose. And you just I stepped on my foot, rolled a little bit on it, and I was like, boop, boop, boop. I have no idea what it was, but I was like, we ain't sticking around to find out, man. I'm out.
It's kind of weird. Most of my encounters with venomous snakes in the wild have been, even like rattlesnakes, they're interested in getting away as fast as they can. Unless it's a water snake. A water snake of any variety I've ever encountered is like, you better get out of there. You
want a piece of me?
You want a piece of me? And I think there's 130 different types of water snake. One of them is a cottonmouth.
Right.
But all water snakes, in my experience, are aggressive. But, rattlesnake and other different snakes, not very aggressive. Yeah. So the most aggressive snake I ever caught was a king snake. I found it was they're black and they have rings.
Sure.
So I caught one out. I'm trying to think of what you call the swamp. It's on the Holly Hill side. You know how Holly Hill is? Swamp? It's not really. It's kind of 4-hole swamp, but I can't remember what they called that area.
Thank you.
It's between. Thank you. It's between. Beer just appeared in my hand, totally full. Cool. But it's the part of the swamp. It's kind of between Holly Hill and Santee. And I had an old beat up Chevy 1500. It wasn't a C10. It was right after that. I can't remember what year it was. Had the 15th motor in it. And I'd stopped and I saw this is the biggest snake I've ever seen in my life. So let me go over there and get it. And I just grabbed him by the tail and I tried to ease him up because I wanted to be calm, and I'd pull him, and he was pretty calm. And I didn't realize how aggressive a king snake is, but a king snake will eat other snakes.
They eat rattlesnakes.
They eat rattlesnakes, they eat copperheads, they don't care. They'll eat anything. Yeah. So I decided I would put him in the back of the truck. And I never saw him again after that. So but I really wanted to take him home. But I'd catch him And it's just like that. Growing up in South Carolina, it's like, oh, snakes. There's a pet store, and then they'll buy these snakes from us. And when we were in high school, we were broke, so it was like we walked down the railroad tracks, and there was a place. There were snakes everywhere, like
Really?
literally handfuls of snakes. And
That sounds like a nightmare.
Oh, it was kind of a nightmare, but we were grabbing them and putting them in his backpack. Me and my friend Sky Burley and Damon Jackson, and we had filled this backpack up with these.
I cannot think of anything worse than having on my back is a backpack full of snakes. That sounds horrible.
But I was like, man, we could probably get $5 a piece for these things. And it was just like Indiana Jones movie. Like they're just wriggling out. But what made me decide I didn't want to, because I was carrying it for a while, and then Damon carried it, and I was like, they're stinking so bad because they're musking,
Yeah.
Basically, I mean, it's poo. It's snake poo.
Yeah.
And I just said, just let them go. We
And you
drop
have
them
a
and let them go.
sack of snakes on your back. Like, Let's
Yeah.
just do the math on that.
I don't know why I did it. It just seemed like the right thing.
A buddy of mine used to catch venomous snakes, and he would go out near Bowman and everything down Holly Hill area, and they'd put these big pieces of tin out in the swamps and just in the woods out there because it would invariably get heated up. The snakes would attract and sit underneath that tin, and they would almost like set bait piles per se for snakes, and they would just set 15 or 20 of these metal pieces out and they said the snakes would congregate, and they'd come in a couple days later and pick them up, and there'd be a rattler sitting under one, a water moccasin sitting on another. They'd freaking catch these things. And they had it in our house in college, and there's a water moccasin they called Mr. Bitey. And he was Mr. Bitey, man. He did not like you at all. And you'd come near the glass cage, and he would just smash his face and just blow venom all over it. I'm like, man, get rid of this thing. Someone's going to get drunk and eat up by this thing. So finally they got rid of him.
I don't like that.
Yeah, I didn't want any part of that. I just decided to check please at that point.
Snakes never bothered me. Fuzzy spiders never bothered me, like, wolf spiders.
Yeah.
I never liked shiny spiders.
Ah, interesting.
Shiny spiders always freak me out. I don't care what they are, they freak me out. My old shop in Harleyville, they have they're just barn spiders or whatever. And some of them are pretty big.
Oh, I bet you have black widows too, though.
Yeah, they're really low to the ground. They were never up in the ceiling.
Oh.
So the black widows would build their little, they were pretty low to the ground, and I never had them in my shop unless they were underneath something. So every now and then, one of these things would fall out of the insulation, and I was really just trying to be cool. And it'd be like, I'd be like, I just want to get off this nasty human. And I could be like, oh God, I can't handle it no more. And I had this question, but I was just trying to think, if I was a spider and I landed on a human, I would think, this is really gross. And I'd have to get off of this nasty human.
Yeah, this guy smells terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible. I try not to do them. Or like, another thing about South Carolina is, buggy. So around my shop, I'd have wasps, like, the wasp nest. And I learned a wasp is a super predator, and they're not really interested in biting you. Not like a yellow jacket. Like yellow jacket has one little brain nodule in there, and it's rolling around all the time probably, and it's just going, where a wasp is like, shh, I'm looking for something, leave me alone. So dirt dauber nests, you bust one open, full of spiders.
No way.
Oh yeah, break one open next time you see one. See, it's full of spiders. Wasp nest, same thing, full of spiders and bugs and flies. So I killed all the wasps one year. I had a fly problem. It was miserable. Flies were all over the place. Like I had a horse trailer I was working or something. So I never killed the wasps again, and I never had flies or spiders.
Really?
So I didn't touch them. And if I left them alone, they wouldn't mess with me.
Yeah, wasps aren't too bad. Hornets are a whole different story.
Oh yeah, they're one of them things. They get one little brain nodule rolling around.
Those guys they're intentional. I've been chased by hornets. Like, wasps, you like run like 10 or 15 feet away, and they pretty much bag it. And hornets, like, you freaking book it about 50 yards. You're like, ha, and you like turn around, and he's still coming. You're like, really? Like, come on, man. Like,
how about carpenter bees?
They just kind of freak me out. Well, I would say freak me out. They're just like, oh, that's weird.
I can give you some good sport. Get a Ruger single 6. And they got a new one. I think it holds 8 or maybe even 12.
I've shot a lot of wasp nests with a Ruger single 6 with rat shot it, but keep going.
Yeah, you got to get those number 12 shots. And carpenter bees, they don't make honey. They just dig holes and stuff and eat it. You could spend days of hunting, so many days of hunting, in fact, that you would want a gun with a gold engraved Carpenter bee on it after some of these.
It's my bee gun.
It's your bee gun. And man, if I got on that, I would go into the hardware store, like, Mr. Ernest, I need some of that 12 shot. And he was like, give me how many boxes you want. I was like, I probably need 10 of them, you know. So I get as many of that stuff as I can. And I would hunt Carpenter bees for days until I was broke, because I was supposed to be making knives. And I was like, hey, where's my knife you're working on? I was like, I got sidetracked.
Yeah.
What? I was really focused on hunting bees. Like, huh? Not honeybees. Just make sure you understand. Carpenter bees. Carpenter bees can sting you or bite you or whatever the hell they're doing. I have no idea. I'm terrified of them.
Just being a-holes.
They'll just bite you and bite you and bite you. But when you got single action, get the longest barrel you can get.
Oh, yeah.
And
I had like a 6 or 6.5 inch stainless.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. And that number 12 shot in there, and you will have a blast hunting Carpenter bees.
That gun is way louder than it needs to be, though.
I think so.
Yeah. Remember? I mean, I'm sure you remember, obviously.
You could do a suppressed one. It would look weird if you had a suppressed single action.
A suppressed cowboy gun.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool, man.
Who out there wants to make us a suppressed single action?
We needs it. 2 of them.
Bees.
For bees. Yeah, those are fun things.
But yeah, we did make a knife, or we're currently making knives.
Mm-hmm.
And we're tempering them right now, is that right?
That's right.
Someone going to turn off the oven at some point?
It'll turn off on its own. Or the insurance will take care of it.
Yeah, or...
Oh my God, I left the oven on.
We totally did. Yeah.
I'm like, really, have you and your wife ever left the house and be like, honey, I left the oven on?
No, because I don't really, the oven, I don't know. I'm not a big oven guy.
I don't know why.
I'm a grill guy. I left the grill on.
Things, and I feel like it's like...
Or the trigger.
I always tempered an oven in the house. And I have a special oven to temper in the shop. You saw it.
Yeah. It's a special one.
It's a special one.
It's
only for tempering blades. But we passed the critical point, and the critical point is we didn't screw up our forging. Came out great. You're a great student.
Oh, thanks, man.
And what's cool is if I say, do this and grind it flat, you're like, and it's pretty much flat, and that was nice. And your knife, when we're done forging, was technically, your knife was straighter than mine. I
didn't hear that part. Say it again.
Your knife was straighter than mine.
Straighter than yours.
Yeah.
Cool.
Because mine was, I had to grind more off the tang on mine. But anyway.
You were too focused were with teaching me than really in yours.
I have had classes where I'm trying to finish a knife and I just like, that ain't happening. Yeah. Those are the people who don't get invited to my house to eat.
Oh, yeah.
When I've got too many of them in class, I'm like, Shelly's like, where's your knife at? And I'm like, not getting a knife on this crew. So if you've not been invited to my house, it wasn't really your fault. It was just really difficult to teach you how to make a knife.
So we got them in tempering now. We have the handles cut out.
Yep.
Yeah, I learned so much stuff.
So the thing we're going to do tonight, we're going to freeze them in the dragon blood overnight, and then tomorrow we'll thaw them out, and then we'll start finishing them.
Yeah, I thought I saw the dragon blood in the freezer.
Cut that part. Make sure you cut that part. I'm just kidding. I really don't want anybody to know about the dragon blood, okay?
I was just like, wow, is the dragon blood that bad of a deal? I guess you're
it's hard to get, man. It's like
hard
to get.
Well, of course. I mean, it's
on
the dragon.
Yeah. But what it does is it gets a full transformation into also, we definitely want these blades to glow blue if there are orcs. So
I didn't show up to have a regular knife.
No, hell no. We ain't doing that.
I mean, orcs.
Yep. But it's going to be cool. And so remember I texted you and I said, do you want to make a cleaver for like processing meat or food, or you want to make a chopper for, choppers could be for clearing trails or zombies.
And zombies and or orcs. So we went with a chopper because in my opinion, that's like your quintessential Jason Knight blade. And if you're going to have Jason Knight teach you how to make a blade, make a Jason Knight
get to
style
the chopper.
Blade. Yeah, exactly. So, and I guess I probably do beat as much as I do trails, but there's something about just being able to hack open some trails because I'm always having to clear stuff.
Yeah.
So
it's a so some of the background on that conceptual
tell me about that chopper.
Yeah, is it's the recurve gathers stuff into the, you know, it's not as crazy as a kukri is. It's more subtle. But when you're cutting, it gathers stuff into that pocket, you know.
Yeah, and then it adds like a different, like, cutting geometry to it.
Yeah,
like
just it brings in instead of slips away, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
And it's like the best of a hatchet and a machete put together. So I've always found, I mean, I grew up in a swamp. I love being out there.
And it still has a bit of a point on it, which is not typical for like a chopper.
The point is great for pointing at stuff or poking holes in stuff, or the hog hunt.
See, that's cool that you have a knife that you could really get busy on a hog hunt.
Oh yeah.
And still obviously chop your way to the hog if you have to.
If you have, yeah. It's kind of neat. I always recommend, it's always kind of weird when I'm like carrying gear in the woods. Like do they call that the Alaska rig?
Yeah, I think, who did I get my rig from? It's like Kenai or something like, I can't remember the name of the company, but yeah, it's like a Kenai holster, I thought it was called.
Yeah, I got 2 different versions of them. I'm supposed to send one to my friend Adam. But he would always rig up the knife so it was carry here, because a lot of times people will carry a knife and they want a big knife and carry it on their side. I'm like, I can't do that.
Right.
Where's it going to go? You know, like you can't sit down with it, you can't ride with it. I would usually wear them I'd stick them in my belt, like I just stick them in my belt.
Really?
And
you wouldn't have it affixed in any way. You would just jam it in the
well, it'd have a sheath, but
yeah,
I just jam it in my belt or stick it in something.
Like old mountain man style.
Yeah, but I'd have usually like that little frog button on there. I don't know what else you call it. Sam Brown stud. That would be a thing.
Yeah,
and sometimes I've made them. I've turned them on lathe before. But I like to carry that style because I'd pull the knife out, hold the sheath in my hand. A lot of times I just throw the sheath on the ground, and then I cut stuff, and then the dog picks the sheath up, and then
you lose the sheath, and then you...
But that's the best way to carry a big knife, or on I can't remember what they call it, a baldric.
Right, okay.
Kind of like a sword. That's another good way to carry it. But that Alaska rig is another good way to carry it. So you got it here, you can carry it. It's always funny because people say, well, what's that big knife good for? It's good for trails. It's good for clearing trails. It's good for being in the woods. It's a great bush knife.
Would you say, like, if you were on a deserted island, like that would be the kind of knife to take? Like that would be like kind of not I don't want to like put words into your mouth, but
if it would distill salt water into fresh water, yes.
Yes, and do your taxes.
And do my taxes, yeah.
So you know our friend Laura Zara, and so you know Laura.
Laura, I met her. Yeah.
Yeah, Laura.
I told her to come make a knife of this.
Yeah, so Laura's awesome, and I believe Neil made her a chopper style knife that was very similar to your design. And she took it, I want to say, to the Philippines, to Alaska, and to another, but she's done the Naked and Afraid. And she has the highest rating of all time, on any survival rating of anyone on the show. She's won the show like 5 times.
Oh, wow.
And the knife she brought was basically a chopper very similar to yours that Neil made her, that forged her. And she wore it in like a little moose hide backpack kind of thing. And she literally took that thing all over the world and survived only that knife for probably a cumulative, I'd say probably 100 days.
Wow.
And she did 60 days in the Philippines.
Wow.
And 20 or 40 days in Alaska, Naked and Afraid, with just that knife. And it was kind of funny. I talked to her later, and she was like, yeah, it wasn't really that hard. She's like, I chopped down through the permafrost. I created a little refrigerator. We figured out how to catch fish. I was keeping fish in there. She's like, I killed a porcupine with my knife. She's like, really? I had my knife? And she was like, they gave us a moose hide. That was great. And she's like, I just cried when I left because like I was having a great time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty neat. I've looked at her knife multiple times, and it's very similar. And I always ask her, I was like, would you change anything? She's like, I've been all over the world with this knife. And I think she said it in the Philippines, I believe it was. 16 people showed up, and of course everyone brought their own knife. And she'll be able to correct me, but I want to say she said 13 of the knives broke in some regard, or chipped or failed, and hers and then another guy like lost his or something, but it basically turned out like hers and one other knife made it.
That's cool.
Through the entire thing. And but she took it on multiple excursions. So I mean, big shout out to Neil, and big shout out to a design like that for being go-to if you
That's
got one
cool.
knife. It's pretty sweet.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. You know, you showed me something today that I really love. So one of the things that you and I also have in common is American manufacturing.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
And you showed me the kettlebells.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, we've been an American-made company since 1980. My dad started in our carport, and I kind of laugh, like, you know, garages were for rich people. We had a carport, you know, just no sides and open air, and it was awesome. And that's what he started started Sorinex. And it was Sorin equipment back then. He was a school teacher and would build a piece of equipment, probably much like you making knives. The equipment that was out there at the moment wasn't good enough, strong enough, safe enough, cool enough. So he just said, well, I could figure it out. And so he decided to make it for himself. And so it just started in that way. And we've always kept our you know, manufacturing here in the U.S. And then we've tried, there's always commodity products, whether it be plates or dumbbells or things like that just weren't able to be made in the U.S. due to obviously Chinese labor, and you know, it's just how it goes. And if you want to be competitive in the market in any regard, you almost have to go overseas. But specifically for some of the military contracts that we've gotten, we had to wake up old technology that got back into the foundries and castings, and we've kind of built that back up in order to fulfill those military contracts. But that gave us the gas to go where we wanted to go, which was to bring back, you know, a holistic U.S. manufacturing process. And so we were able to make kettlebells, and we have a lot of other things coming that'll be totally U.S. manufactured, which, you know, I'm very proud about, and especially with what the world's going through now. Is I feel very, very strongly about bringing things back home if we can.
Yeah, that's right. That's something me and Ryan talk about a lot of times. There's a lot of voids now for businesses who went out, and I'm not to say I'm glad they went out. However, I am to say there's an opportunity.
Totally.
And you know you're an entrepreneur when you go, someone ought to do that. Someone either should be you, or you share the idea with someone who can do something about it.
And then you support them.
And
then if they decide to take the ball and run with it, then you make sure you're in the stands cheering for them.
Yeah, that's
tickets,
right.
you know.
That's right. It was either this morning or last night, you and I were just talking about like the giving and the sharing.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting about how my interest as I continue to progress in, I guess it could be called our business. Would you call it that, Ryan?
Is that what you do?
It's like, I like to share. I like to bring people in. It's like, bring more people into this tribe.
Yes.
Bring more people in. We were talking about building culture. And I really think this is some of the most important stuff that we've been kind of throwing back and forth. It's like, we are connected to different cultures.
Yes.
And we're technically connecting these dots, because when I went to Summer Strong, I saw people in the special operations community that I'd met through Daniel Winkler and Karen Winkler.
Sure.
I'd seen them at SHOT Show. They started to see me. Like, oh, you work with now? Come on with us. Come with us. We're going to go to this party. You can come. I was like, yeah, but I'm not. I was like, oh, no, you're with us, man. Come on. And I was like, that was cool.
Super cool, right?
And I really I was like, I'm glad I can help and I could do my part in it.
Right.
But I'm also glad we're connecting the dots, because if you look at from the outside and you look at American culture and what's popular, it doesn't look good.
It doesn't look good at all, and it's really been bugging me. I know you and I have talked about it and had a great conversation with your wife Shelly last night, and it's almost everything I was brought up to. I'm not talking anything like high, you know, like basal level, but like the high level of being giving and trying to help those around you and trying to have candid and curious conversations with one another to learn about what's going on and talk differences out and try to create strengths and similarities instead of differences. Unfortunately, that doesn't feel like it's happening. And hopefully it's only the news telling us that, but thankfully, I guess really, you and I were talking about, if you turn off the news and turn off social media to a great extent, it's actually not too bad out there from what I've experienced.
Yeah, if you start having conversations with people and you start thinking about our community. Our
Yes.
community is made of many, from
Yes.
many cultures, from many countries.
Yes.
And we come together as one people group.
Mm-hmm.
And I see us as we are building a culture
Yes.
of people who we grow food, we hunt, we make tools.
Yes.
We
share our passions, and you've shared your gift, and I truly believe you're gifted. You've shared your gift with me in the last 2 days, and this has been awesome. Like, I learned something, and I got to go pretty deep water into it, really.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've said before, like, we make some interesting steel rectangles, you know, to simplify what we do. But I think what we're able to share at Sorinex is like our passion for lifting and human performance and innovative training solutions. And if we could do that and then transcend outside of what is typically seen as lifting,
Yeah.
and bring in like a Neil Kamimura, who then brought in you. And I remember Summer Strong last year, people were like, you have a knife maker coming and speaking at Summer Strong? I was like, yeah, man, don't worry about it. Just go watch. It's going to be amazing.
So good.
You know, and people really, they're like, a knife maker? What does that have to do with human performance? I'm like, first of all, it's an amazing art form that is human performance. Second of all, hold on to your hat, because you were about to go on a ride. Because I knew kind of where he was going. And if you haven't seen the video, go watch the video.
It's impressive.
Summer Strong 12, Neil Kamimura.
Yeah.
And he did one of the most courageous things I've ever seen
Yep.
as a person.
He.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And if you were there, you know. And if you were there, you know. And that was awesome, because even it was like 500 or 600 people, they have that reaction.
No, sorry.
No. Because and the same thing happens to me, and I talk to people, and they go, oh man, Summer Strong is awesome, and I go, what did you think? And they finish my sentence. They go, Neil, and they choke up and they go, I was there.
Yeah.
And you go, if we could share that and be that vulnerable and that loving to one another,
It's what our culture needs.
it's what our culture needs. I don't care if it's knives, I don't care if it's guns, I don't care if it's weightlifting equipment, I don't care if it's music, photography, whatever. Be accepting of one another and pull each other in. And, you know, this Japanese Hawaiian little dude who I have very little in common with, if you just look at the two of us, I fell in love with the guy.
Yeah.
After talking to him one night, we hung out in Vegas at SHOT Show.
Yeah.
And he told me a bit of his story. And I said, hey, I'd like you to speak at Summer Strong. He's like, I've never told that story. And he goes, I don't know why I'm saying yes, but I like you, and okay. And then he called me a month out. He's like, can I go there? And I was like, I don't know where there is, but okay. He goes, okay, let me get my head together. And he went there.
It was.
And it changed people.
It was the best forging demonstration I ever saw.
Right?
Because he ripped his heart out of his chest and he threw it there on the anvil.
Yeah, and beat it in front of everybody. Mm-hmm. And no one...
And he beat it in front of some of the most dangerous,
Yeah.
toughest, most clever people on the earth.
Yes.
And he had no.
And some men that were what I would consider, like you said, just total alphas, total tough, total whatever, and they were floored. And I had some of these men who, I don't need to say where they're from and what they've done, but you know what I mean. And they came up to me with tears in their eyes. They go, I've never seen something so courageous.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. Like, how can you create those opportunities for each other to go there and support one another? That's what it's about. If your gift is to do it through knives, if my gift is to do it through strength, if someone else's gift, whatever it is, like, we've been gifted to do that.
That's right.
And if we could do that, that's the culture. What does that culture even mean, or what is it? How do you define it? I don't know.
That's exactly right. It is the way forward.
It's a way forward.
And there's a lot of things, sometimes I can think about a history that I truly don't know, because no one's alive who was there.
Right.
And we can spend a lot of time saying, well, America did this and this and this and this was wrong and this and this and this. You're right. But at least we are free to do it.
Yeah.
And we are free to change it. And we are free to make it better.
Right.
And we are free to make a way forward.
Right.
And one of the things in this culture that I don't like this mind control mentality that a lot of people are under.
Yeah.
As all this stuff was unfolding, and I don't often talk about these types of things, but that example of Summer Strong and Neil literally taking his heart out of his chest and forging it right there. It was awesome. But we all do that. And how does that change everything? When we're really all doing it all the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have no complaint. I don't have nothing to bitch about, really. I got nothing to complain about. I got nothing to bitch about. That is what we should, that brings us together. No one comes together over their differences, ever. They all come together over our similarities. The thing is, we are out of many different cultures, out of many different nations, but we're Americans.
Yes.
It doesn't matter where we're from, what our heritage is. It's kind of funny. People ask me all the time, what's your ethnicity? Where are you from? What country are you from? I was like, I'm American.
Yeah.
I'm an American.
Yeah.
You know?
And even above, I mean, I say above that, but even larger than that, because I know you have fans all over the world. Mm-hmm. You're knife people. You're artisans.
And we're blacksmiths, and we forge metal, and we make things.
And that again is looking for the similarity versus the difference. You know, I could sit here and pick you apart and figure out the 20 things that make us different and convince myself to hate you for it if I really wanted to. Yeah. Or I look and see the obvious 10 things that were super similar. And then I like you. Then I'm going, I really like Jason Knight, and I was excited that you came to Summer Strong, and I was thrilled that you invited me to come up here. Yeah. And because there are these similarities, and then I was really interested in what other similarities are they? And then we could make a knife together for a couple days, we could eat dinner, we could connect. And then once that trust is built, then we could start talking about the differences. Hey, this was your experience? Wow, that's different than mine. Tell me about that. Because there's the trust and the love there. Yeah. We've already decided that we respect and love one another. And then we could go in and go, hey, cool, like our differences now are not something that are to be weaponized. They're something to be understood. Yeah. And we go, oh, cool, you live down there? Really? How did that work out? Oh, your grandmother was blah, blah, blah. Cool, this is really awesome now. Yeah. And unfortunately, people don't take almost the long form process to get to that. They just say, he's different than me. Oh, I hate that guy or a girl.
You said an interesting thing. Weaponizing the differences.
It's the worst.
Don't you see, there are forces that work behind all of us that are playing a game that I think most people don't see it. And they're trying to weaponize our differences against each other.
100%.
Which is the most illogical thing ever. It's like, you're talking about evil. I watched a video the other day, and there was he was a young man, he's a veteran, and he was very upset that the day before some people had come into his town, and they were, I don't know exactly what was going on, I didn't see the whole context of it, but he was like, I want all of us to be armed, I want all of us to stand here firm, I want all of us to realize, like, this is our country too, and we're Americans too, and if you want to stand with us, stand with us. And it's a battle against good versus evil. Yeah. And what he said was right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean we have to be armed, but it means we have to think.
Yes. Yeah. And not take whatever information flow comes in and audit our thoughts, audit the sources of our information. Yeah. And change perspective. If something doesn't, I hear a lot now, oh, that's crazy. I can't believe this is going on. I can't believe it. This is crazy. This is crazy. Okay, then change perspective until it is no longer crazy. Yeah. Look at it until you go, oh, all the tumblers line up this way. Yeah. Not saying that that's the reason, but you go, maybe there's a hypothesis. But what I'm being fed doesn't make sense. Thus, it's probably not true.
Yeah, that's right.
And just realize that people are generally good, if they're given the opportunity to be.
one of the interesting things that we do have in common is we don't suffer mediocrity, and we are. I'm not interested in good enough. I'm not interested in this is as far as I need to go. I have no interest in that. That's like I don't care for that. I want to go the farthest. I want to go the fastest. I want to climb and I mean like in what I'm doing and in everything. It's like there's no sense in beginning if you're not going to go as far as you can go.
Right. Yeah, we talked about it last night at dinner. Some of my group of buddies, we call it the thin air. And the majority of folks, unfortunately, they're on this low, and I don't mean socioeconomic or anything like that. They're on the low mindset that is for mediocrity and tearing one another down and comparing to one another and all this other stuff. Whereas you work higher and higher, you'll start seeing a similarity of people that are in that little triangle at the top that are the high performers. They're not looking what everyone else is doing. They're not tearing anybody down. Yep. They're actually celebrating. They're celebrating the next rung below them. Like, hey, come up and beat me.
Yeah,
come up and do it. Like,
That's
seriously,
right.
I'll help you anyway, and hopefully you'll be better than me. And they realize that they're not trying to be necessarily the GOAT. They're just trying to have a space in the timeline of excellence.
Yeah.
And that's like yourself. You're a great knife maker. But to invite all these other knife makers and wannabe knife makers, in all honesty, you'll probably train someday, and you might have already done it, someone that'll be better than you.
Yeah, I'm working on it every day, and I got one that lives in
Isn't
my
that
house.
exciting?
It's exciting.
Isn't that exciting?
It's the goal.
It's the goal.
It's the goal.
It's the goal. Not when people
the goal
hold
is
on
to not share enough. It's like I want to bring you up to my level, but I'm going to put my foot on your head. The goal is to be like, I want you to. I want to show you everything I got, so you can be better than me.
Yeah, so you
can teach me.
Yeah, you could get to home base faster than I did, and you
That's
still
right.
got time to learn.
That's right.
That's the key. And those thin air people, that's always how they think.
That's right.
And I wish more people would realize if they could break out of this and just start thinking up in that direction, their life gets better. And in all honesty, there's less competitiveness up there at the top because everyone wants to help each other.
There's a funny thing I have in common with I don't meet a lot of people that are grown men that I can get along with very easily.
You haven't stabbed me yet at all.
No, because the funny thing is like we can enjoy a lot of these things together.
Sure.
And if there's a competition, we can encourage each other.
Sure.
But what I always dislike is when I'm with some other people and they're like, I don't like you because you're doing something I'm not doing, and you like I'm not better than you, and I don't think I'm better than you. You know what that situation. But it's like I'm not in a competition with you. I'm in a competition with me. Sure. And you already know that about yourself. And everybody, like all these people that we touch in these different communities, whether it's in knife making or athletics or weightlifting or any of these world champions or the special operations community, these people are not trying to be better than the other guy. They're trying to be better than them.
Try to be better than themselves.
That's crazy.
It's a whole different animal. And then there's another level to it that, when you start keeping score, I want to beat you, but I want to beat you at your best. And I want to help you to get there. So if I do beat you, I beat more than I could ever even think that I was able to do. And that's that other little piece of like, when I was throwing hammer and stuff, like I didn't hope my competitors threw poorly. I hope they crushed it, and I had to answer because then I knew I did something. Yeah, I don't want the easy win.
That's right.
That's if that was the case, I'd have thrown against a bunch of third graders. That wouldn't have been fun. You know,
ever want to fight somebody? It's like I could beat that guy. It's like, I don't want to fight that guy.
Why would I do that? But that's the coolest thing. And then you could be. You always remain valuable in the system if you teach. Yeah. And if your knife making ability and your designs and your ideas will far outlive you. because of the hundreds and hundreds of people that you've inspired, or maybe thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that you've inspired to do what you love.
Yeah.
And that's what I consider true success. Like, who cares how much money you make, or like, this guy's the best knife maker, or this guy's Sorinex has the best equipment. I don't know. We make good stuff.
Yeah.
We make good stuff, and hopefully we've changed the industry in the amount of time that we're in business. And if so, that's cool.
You know, you have really cool at your shop besides your team. As far as equipment-wise, I like the laser.
The laser beams.
That's one of the baddest ass lasers I've ever seen.
It's pretty gnarly.
Crazy, yeah.
It's pretty gnarly. And that's another thing. Like, a kid growing up in the '80s, you know, when like lasers were like a thing. I remember looking at Pops when we bought it. I was like, we own a freaking laser beam. Like a laser. Those are things I didn't really think existed when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's.
But the best part of it is the team.
Yeah.
And for me, one of the things that, when I was in South Carolina, I worked. It was me and Shelly trying to hack it out, and I had the wrong attitude a lot of times, thinking it was just me, when it really was her mostly, and me just doing the work. Now, when we moved here, my wife had the mind to build a team, and here's the team, just part of the team. But without the team, I'm really a loser. That's how I feel. It's like, without a team, I was like, I know it sounds weird, but it's like building the team. It's just like, that makes it so much better. That makes it more fun. That makes it more interactive.
Well,
it's
because
like
then
ideas, like bouncing ideas off of these guys and bringing them in. And
no one wants the victory banquet by themselves.
That sucks.
You know, you get to, I mean, that's the same thing. I mean, we have certain songs we play in the office, like when we hit certain goals and stuff like that, and guys are just dancing around like grown men, you know, and you're just like, this is awesome. And one of our metrics at Sorinex was like, how many of our employees buy their first home or buy a, you know, and that's one of the metrics is like, because if we're able to help make their lives more successful through financial guidance and through giving them opportunity and seeing them mature into men and women who are being responsible for their families, like, that's a huge metric for us. You know, there's the sales metrics, I'm sure, but it's like, yeah, but you have 23 guys that bought their first homes in the last couple years. That's awesome.
That's
right. That's the stuff that's exciting, because then you know they're moving their lives ahead, and it's not just a one-horse pony. It's like, oh, thank you for making my life great. I'm going to go to my ivory tower now. Yeah. I love it when those guys, you know, it's like, that's the best. When they have kids, when they buy cars, when they buy houses, I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's the fun stuff.
That's the fun stuff. That is
the
nice.
fun stuff.
Seeing other people succeed is one of the best things that you can see. It's like, my friend Quentin, he's a kid I was talking about. You got to sell them gold coins, man. Buy your grinder.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Tell about. I'm like, I got to meet that guy. Yeah, like, I started following him. What a cool story.
We should have done a podcast when Quentin was here. We didn't get to. So Quentin, he was a kid when I met him. I can't think. He might have been 18, and so I've known him for a long time.
How old is he now?
He's 30. He's getting close to 40.
Wow.
So I've known him for a long time. But so he's making all these kung fu weapons, and I was like, these are cool, man. It's all right, but you gotta, like, you know, get a little serious, focus a little more. And then one day he comes in my shop, he goes, God told me to make chef's knives. I'm like, I agree with that. That's cool. Make chef's knives. You can use my grinders. I think I had 4 grinders set up in my shop at that time, and it was a box. It literally was in my shop where my, like, the room with the bathroom is in it. That's how big my whole shop was. And so he would come, and he was making all these knives, and I was like, hey man, look, don't you have something you could sell? Like, you got like some guns or something you could sell and buy some grinders? He goes, oh, I got a gold coin collection, but like, I want to keep that for a legacy for my family. And I grabbed his hands and I turned him over and I said, that's your legacy. Go sell them gold coins or don't come back to my shop. He sold those coins, and I think he bought 2 Wilmot grinders from Chris Williams. And within 6 months, and I'm not kidding you, he'd either sold to or given every chef you know. This was back right when that all popped.
Yeah.
So Guy Fieri, Emeril Lagasse, you know, the man, why can't I say his name? Sean Brock. You know, he was like he changed the whole Charleston dynamic. You know, Craig Deal, a lot of these guys, he made them knives, he sold them knives, he shared knives with them, he got feedback, and he makes chef's knives. And every time I see him, I'm like, that's good.
And you literally, by doing that, changed the trajectory of not only his life, but his family's life. Mm-hmm. And that's the best.
But I just encouraged him in a direction. You know,
sure.
It was
really
him deciding, I'm all in. You know, I'm all in.
And sometimes those are the conversations that people need to have. And you know, I remember 2 or 3 different conversations through my life when an adult challenged me, and those were the times that literally changed the trajectory.
Yeah.
And that was it. But up until that point, everyone had kind of treated me with kid gloves a little bit. Like, oh, hey, you're a good dude. Hey, and one of my coaches was like, my freshman year, was like, I didn't ask you to come here. You were a walk-on. You seem like you could be pretty good at this, but I need one of 2 things. I need you to get great grades or throw really far and score at the SEC level. Right now, you're doing neither. You're a detriment to our team. You're a total risk. Get your stuff together or leave.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, at 18 years old, no one had ever just laid it down. Like, you really have no value. You have potential value. Your value is associated with this. You are doing this.
Yeah.
Change that or beat feet, man. Get out of here, because you are a detriment to my team.
Yeah, it's
that was it.
One of those things you ever hear people talk about. Oh, that kid's got a lot of potential. Oh, I'm like, oh man, that's like a 1,000 horsepower engine with no transmission.
That's it.
And then me and Neil actually brought it a little further. He's like, you know, horsepower is interesting, but torque is more interesting. And I'm like,
it's applied horsepower.
It's applied horsepower. That's right. And without that, nothing can move forward.
Right.
And it's like that journey. When people say to me, well, when I retire, I'll ...
No, you won't.
I was like, you'll do the same thing you've always done. And I'm not being a jerk to them, but the truth is like, I don't believe in security and I don't believe in safety. Those are illusions.
Right.
Those are illusions that are either delivered to us by our ancestors or our present time, the people that surround us, or I don't know. I really just don't know. Like, what I want, this is what I want.
Yeah.
I want to swim around in blue water and shoot fish with a spear gun. Take them up on the beach, make ceviche, and eat them. You know, I want to eat raw fish. And it's like, is that your goal in life? Actually, yes, that's my goal in life. I want to do that every day. You know what I mean? And I don't care how old it is.
Yeah.
But I'm not waiting.
To do it. No one ever like retired and then actually did the stuff they wanted to do. You're tired by then.
Anybody can sit back. Anybody can buy a chair and sit back and go.
Unfortunately, my grandfather did that, and I never knew my granddad when he wasn't retired. So for the 25 years I knew him before he passed, he was a nice guy that sat in a chair, and I'd go over to his house and he'd sit there and he's very nice and we'd have great decent conversations, because he was really interested in sitting in his chair and watching TV. And I would talk to my dad and they're like, man, you should have seen him when his day, he was all about it, you know? And I'm thinking like, the guy that I see sitting in a chair is significantly different than the person I'm hearing these stories about. And I never understood how that worked out. Like, did you just get so tired of going so hard? And I think literally just the working, I don't say a menial job, but like a very moderate, mediocre thing just burned him out. And then it was like he literally sat in a chair for 25 plus years after that. And I'm terrified of that. Yeah. I'm terrified to think that I won't still have like this burning in my gut to go out and challenge myself, to challenge my friends, to push, you know, if this is the expectation line of what my age and my ability level should be, if I'm not north of that, then like I'm not doing my job. Because honestly, it's not that hard to be north of it. You just have to put effort into it. Yeah. And I just can't pull myself into thinking that anything less than that's okay.
Yeah. One thing, you know, I personally have never been in the military.
Same.
Yeah, but we have the fortunate opportunity to be able to work with a lot of these guys. My dad was in the military, my uncle, my grandfather, my other grandfather, everybody in our family going back forever as far as was in the military. And one of the coolest things I've ever learned from, especially the operators.
Sure.
Move forward, keep moving forward, keep moving forward, keep moving forward. It's like
Can't
super simple, right? It's like keep moving forward, keep moving forward. It could be this far, keep moving forward. It could be only like 6 inches.
Yeah. But the attempt at moving forward is the key.
But it's the key. And I was like, I always loved that. I was like, man, if you learn anything, keep moving forward.
Yeah.
But like right now in our culture, like I just feels like the truth is, and I was telling you things about earlier about some of my friends I grew up with, we all have this fantasy history of our lineage or our family. More than likely it's not true. Some of us can trace it, but a lot of us can't. Like I really can't. My family's been here for so long, I really don't know and I don't care. So that just makes me an American.
Yeah.
So I can't get mad about anything, and I don't want to get mad about anything.
And you can't change anything that happened more than a second ago.
But I do sympathize with that. I get it. Now I can't empathize with it because that means I'm going to agree with it. And I just say, for me and whatever it was, all I know is there is something better for us as a culture of people, wherever we came from.
And let's work together to figure it out.
Yeah.
Work together is the key.
My dad's uniform from the Army and my grandfather's one said U.S. When I was a little kid, it said us. I never thought that to be United States. I thought that means us. Us.
Hey, go us.
So go us. And that meant a lot. And I think about it sometimes. It's like us.
Yeah.
So let's keep moving forward and being us. And let's make a difference, Yeah. That's why I say, be a maker. Make a difference.
I love the message in that. It means so much more now that I understand it after you described the whole idea, but it totally aligns with who you are.
Yeah.
And that's the cool integrity of it. And it's an awesome message.
Well, we had fun. Thanks for being here, Bert.
Thanks a lot, Jesse.
Good hanging out with you, brother.
It. Thanks for being
we're making a knife. And that will be revealed on another space and time. Literally.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. And we'll keep doing some podcasts, I hope.
568 coming up.
Number 568.